Hi, this is Justin Entz from the Direct Scale Dev team. I wanted to share a quick video on custom APIs, how you can create a custom API in the client DLL that can both be exposed through the public API, but also you can be used through retail, corporate, or the back office. There's all different ways to do each one of those, and I want to show a couple of those to show off the power and the extensibility of the Direct Scale system. If we jump into the client DLL real quick, you'll see that in the extension entries, which every client DLL has, there is this way to register an API, add API right here. You add a request object. If we jump into that real quick, this is just something I custom added inside the client DLL. I wanted to make it so you have to pass an associate ID and service ID, and it inherits from this command request, which has this command key. So this is what's going to do the security checks to make sure that they're valid as they hit this API. So to understand what this method is going to do, let's jump over here into the corporate side of things. You can see I've got an associate by the name of Sam Space. Under the Auto Ships and Services tab, you can see there is a service that this person has, an example service, expires on 4/2. Now, in here, I can come and I can edit the date, but I can't cancel it. I can't cancel it at this minute. I can set the date back into the past. But in the Direct Scale system, all services will be returned unless they've been voided. And there's nothing in the base Direct Scale system to void a service, because all of that kind of depends on how long you want a grace period. So every time that people have used services, they've created their own custom way to cancel it. So I decided to create an API endpoint to do this. So a third party could call over and say, cancel this service now because of fraudulent activity, or because of any reason. The person decided they wanted to cancel themselves, so they went and pushed the button to cancel it. So that's what this API will do. Let's jump back over to the DLL. You got that command request, the cancel service request that I created. This is the name I used for it. I used it demo services / cancel service. Demo is the name of the client that I'm using this on. It's just our demo client. But this is just the key of the client. And this name actually is kind of important, this demo services. We'll get into that in a second when we get into the public API. Then we've got this function here. There's the request. It's going to return a string. You could have it return whatever you want. You can create a custom return method here as well. But here is the actual method itself. I created an iEvent service that's got all my injection here. And then I've got this cancel service. All it's really doing is finding the person's service, making sure it's the correct one, and then it goes and hits this SQL update to cancel the associate service. Okay? Pretty simple. And then if it all works, it returns this finished. You can do a lot of different things there, but that's what I decided to do, just to keep this simple demo. Okay? So now let's go see if we can use it. Let's start with the public API. In the public API, there is this custom service section. If we go back, I can show you. Oh, gotta log back in. There we go. It's going a little slow. In here, you got this very top one. It's called custom services. Not everybody has access to this because you have to use the client DLL to be able to even use it. But if you, upon request, you can get access to this method. And this method is a little unique. It has a function name that you're actually going to hit. And so if we come over to this try it, I'll show you kind of what I'm talking about here. Okay, so it's got a function name here. So if we come back over to this client DLL, I named it this demo services cancel service. Now, if I just take this cancel service and I put it in the function name, you need to know what this request object is. I've got one right here that's the same, so I'm just going to copy that over. But this is basically that request object that I created. If we come back over here, that's what this is. It's got an associate ID and a service ID. That's what I'm putting in here. You do not need to include the command key because the public API has got its own subscription key. And as that is passed through, it will create the command key as it hits into the DLL, the client code, to your code that you've created. So if I want to say, okay, let's associate 2, service 1 is what I want to hit, that would come to this exact service right here. If we go back over and we execute, finished. Here's the return object. It's just a string. It could return a full object. I showed you that earlier, but this is what I said to return, which is finished. If you now come back over to the client and you refresh the page, go over to services, he has no active service. Okay, so that's what I just canceled. I did it from the public API. So if you had a third-party client that wanted to be able to cancel people's services, this is exactly how you do it. So you can expand this into so many different things. With how much power we're giving you with the client DLL and the extensions there, you can create APIs to do custom reports. You could create APIs to do a lot of many different things. You could even have it so it involves some custom tables and some custom schema. Whatever you want it to be able to do, this is a way you can kind of get it done that works really easy to do. The other one that's coming up a lot is, how do I do that in retail? Retail is very customizable, but how do you hit one of those endpoints that you created? I created a custom endpoint to cancel service. So if you come over here and you go into your custom pages, in your retail admin, I created this custom page, which I call just in test. Okay. Now, if I come over here to this edit, you can see all the HTML. I did this really simple, right? I'm just trying to show this as an example. I created this just little form here called this void service. Okay. And in this JavaScript side over here, I have this method right here. This void service gets called. Okay. I'm going to build this request object, which is going to be associate ID and service ID, which I'm actually setting right here as 2 and 1 again. Same thing I did on the last one. And then I'm going to use this ref service to call this v3 post. And I have to put this proxy in front of it. Then you have the demo service cancel service. With the request, it's going to do the exact same thing. Okay. This will work from, so if we go and we kind of look at it from the perspective of the page I created, I know it's very simple and straightforward and kind of ugly, let's be honest. But I wanted to just show you that it's possible and how much you can do here. So let's go back over here because now he has no services. So we got to go and create him a new service. Let's go. And take 1 second as I come in here. I type that service to this bottle. So when you buy this bottle, you get a 1-month service. Okay, so now that I've purchased that, I have another service, brand new one. Okay, 4/7 is going to end. Okay, now if we go over to this public API, at this point I needed to be logged in, so I am logged in as this person. So for the authentication reasons, you could create them so they're not authenticated. You need to be very careful as you're doing that. But if you come into this extension entry, there's actually an overload method here where you can actually, oh, I think I put it in the wrong spot. Oh, no, require authentication. Perfect. You would just type false in here. Default, it's true. Very rarely will you put that as false. You need to be very careful because you want to protect your site. You don't want people attacking the site. What is happening in this method? But I have it as true. So I need to be logged in on the retail admin, which I am. I'm logged in. And then I go to this page called Just in Test. This is what shows up. It's very ugly, but when you click on it, it returns. And I just had it so it did a pop-up that says finished, that it's done. Now that that's done, you can go back over here, refresh. You'll see this guy doesn't have a service anymore. So we're doing a full round. The only part that's really confusing on all of this is there's a few kind of keywords you need to know. On the retail admin, you need to know that there's this v3 post method. And you need to keep in mind this proxy needs to be put in front of it. Because what's going to happen is this method is going to call over to our front end API layer, and it's going to go through that API layer and then look in the client DLL for your exact reference that you had. When you're calling from the public API, though, it's a little different, which is kind of confusing. But if you want to be able to call it from the public API, it depends on how you name this. You have to name it the key of the client. So I'm on the demo client. You can see it up here in the top corner. You can see it when I'm on each page, demo. I have to put that in the path of the URL, the demo services / whatever I want. And all you do is take this name when you're doing the public API. So that gets a little confusing, but you're probably not very often going to have it in multiple spots. You're going to be creating an API for a certain purpose. If I'm creating an API that I want to go through the public API gateway, then I'm going to make sure I name it this client key services and then the name of the method that I want. If I'm going to just be hitting it from the retail site, well, maybe I don't include this part, and maybe in the DLL I just do cancel service. But whatever you kind of want to do, it's just very powerful. Most clients that I've worked with will end up creating many custom APIs, either be used in the back office, to be used in the retail, to be used on the corporate side, or to be used from our third-party app developer or a third-party software. So I hope that is helpful. If you have any questions, please send that over to customer care. And thank you.